So, in the day and age of gaming that we are currently in, has anybody else noticed that many of the new games really do seem to be built around retention? And this is probably something, especially with the racing game genre, that everybody has probably noticed. Now, I'm sure you could definitely say that other games are also built around this, as they are pretty much looking for retention as players' numbers go up and all that stuff. They're like, okay, well, our game is populated and, so on and so on. I could break that down more about the investors, but I ain't going to do all that because I would say most people know. But what's kind of wild to me, though, is older racing games really were built around making you want to come back to it. Whereas I feel like modern racing games are increasingly built around making you need to come back to it. And this is something we are seeing in most modern racing games. And to be honest, guys, I think the fatigue of this entire design really is starting to set in. One of the biggest ways you could look at this, though, is a lot of racing games are kind of asking you to almost clock in now instead of really playing the game. I mean, heck, bro, every single week there's another playlist or another pass unlock you have to do, or more challenges to level up the pass, or, oh, we have a new limited time reward that if you don't do it right now, you are basically doomed and you will never have this again. Like, a lot of people really were playing more than ever, and I think a lot of people are also enjoying a lot of these games a lot less. Because for one, guys, yes, you might be playing the games a lot more as you kind of have to in ways now on how these games are designed. They really do want you to pretty much stay sucked into them or, jump on, or you have to do this as this is a limited time mode. For example, on Battlefield or even Call of Duty, you have a limited mode, you play this, and then it is gone. And guess what? Players just get disappointed because you bring the hype up and then it comes right back down again, as everything kind of feels like a limited time piece that a lot of people probably want in there, and people might clock in just to play that or they really enjoy it, and then you take that stuff away from them. And one thing I have been noticing, though, is I think a lot of this comes down to the retention becoming the goal of a lot of these games nowadays, guys. I mean, they pretty much are measuring daily active users, the weekly active users, how long they're probably playing the game for, how many players are returning to it for each update, how is the overall engagement. And I feel like they'll have different spikes and stuff. If you log on daily, they'll have spikes of players, right? If there's not an update on a game for a while, they release something in a week or even a month from there, then the players will end up spiking again, and it will kind of look like there's always players kind of on the game or coming back to it because it looks interesting. Whereas I really do feel like they're kind of prioritizing a lot of these things now over actual memorable gameplay, which you guys probably have heard me talk about that with the older games and how they pretty much worked on that. Instead of making sure they're like, okay, we got to make sure our players always come back to this game. But the thing is, they basically need you to come back to the game, right? It's not about how fun the gameplay is. They kind of put content in there to make you come back for. Features nowadays are pretty much built around retention. They want you to log back in tomorrow, okay? You have to come back tomorrow or come back next week because then you could do it. Or you might end up looking at different login bonuses or a limited time mode again. And the thing is, a lot of players want to say, I want to race, I want to do this, this is really fun, this is enjoyable. It's not, I don't want to miss something if I don't get on the game right now, or, oh man, I have to do this legit right now. It's not that I want to do it. And I think a lot of the games really are focusing on this way too much, man. I have talked about the weekly playlists and all those different things that most of these games possess. Forza Horizon has the festival playlist, guys. We've talked about this a lot. We all do know it needs to be changed. Will it? I honestly doubt it. We also have Motorfest with the Summit, which is honestly better than the festival playlist, but still worse than the Crew 2 on how they designed it. So that was kind of backwards there. Gran Turismo 7 for me has the weekly challenges, and you guys know what's kind of dumb? I enjoy the weekly challenges in Gran Turismo more than Motorfest and Forza. And the weird thing is, it's not really about the rewards. It's just kind of fun racing different cars with specific like builds or max like PP systems that are on them, on how like the levels are like 850, or you guys know what I mean. But either way, though, I have more fun doing that than getting on and doing the festival playlist, which is kind of weird. A lot of these things might look fun to a lot of players or get somebody excited, but y'all know what's wild? That is until it becomes homework or something that you pretty much need to do every single week. It honestly takes the fun out of it. And one of the other sides of this, though, is one of the most talked about things in a lot of these games, and that's simply down to FOMO. We all do know a lot of games have it, guys. The limited cars, limited cosmetics, all kinds of different things that are exclusive events, One thing I did notice is Apex is a good example of this. They have limited events that have limited cosmetics to them or something. Then we also have the fear of missing those said rewards. If you want to get some of those things, you have to get on and do it there, where it's kind of limited to that time. If you don't do it, then you pretty much have to wait, or you might not even have hopes of getting some of that stuff. So I think a lot of players look at some of those FOMO things, and you guys know what? I will even say this. I'm in this category because I used to play Apex Legends a lot back in the day, so I also did this. I would log on to the game and go, okay, I have to get on right now and play this as I got to do these dailies and challenges, so I could get a chance at some of these crates or some items in this specific event that is going on. So it's not that I was really excited to do it, but in ways I'm like, no, I kind of got to get on and do this now. If I don't start doing these challenges, then I will end up missing out on some of these rewards. And I kind of do think a lot of players are also kind of just fatigued in this entire thing too, man. Players look at cars, they look at these things and go, okay, well, this stuff is cool, but guys, imagine for a second, though, if they remove some of the cosmetics in cars from the festival playlist, for example, or even the summit. I guarantee you the amount of players that would even look at the festival playlist or summit or some of these other things would most likely never really even bother to do it. That's also one thing I gotta admit with Gran Turismo 7 again. The entire weekly challenge will give you some items. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's a roulette ticket. But the thing is, though, you really never feel like you're missing out on things, which is kind of wild, guys. Like, when I look at that, I'm not like, okay, I have to do this right now. You have kind of the whole week. You get on there, do it as you please, and get it done. And there's not rewards in there that if you don't do it, you will have to wait 4 to 6 months to get it, or in some cases, almost never. The other side of this entire thing, though, is we do know every single racing game has a battle pass or some type of seasonal design now, which I'm actually going to touch on this in a separate video because I want to deep dive into it more. But it's kind of wild to me that the seasonal model is so dang common in all of these games, guys. Everything resets, everything rotates. You pretty much wait months for some of the content to come. It's honestly wild that when you finally get the content, you almost get a bit disappointed in a way because you're like, oh, this is all we got after all of this, after that full-on quote-unquote seasonal rotation. Again, I'm going to talk about this in a separate video because I got to deep dive into that a little bit because it's really been kind of frustrating me a bit. But I really do think a lot of their biggest designs, though, is they really want to keep you engaged in these games over the overall excitement, guys. Older games, I have been going back and playing a lot of them. One thing I've been doing recently is playing many old WRC games, and what's kind of interesting, though, is a lot of older games really kind of made me go, okay, so they kind of look at these games and go, how do they make these races feel unforgettable, or how's it going to be a memory to these players? I mean, heck, guys, jumping in, playing some old PS3 Need for Speed games, or playing Midnight Club, or jumping on some of these, a lot of them really make you go, dang, this game was super memorable, which is also why players are still talking about it even today, which is kind of wild. Burnout Revenge, Need for Speed Most Wanted, Midnight Club, even something like Pure, for example. A lot of these games really do give you that feeling that, dang, this was kind of the thing you really do remember. But now games are kind of on the side of, okay, well, we got to get players back here next Tuesday or next update or something. They really focus on that more than anything else that are in those current updates. And I feel like that's also why so many updates literally feel forgettable. And y'all know what's kind of wild, though, is I really noticed this in the newer games a lot. When I was playing the old games, I would go in and go, okay, the racing in this game itself is addictive. When I jumped onto something like Pure, I was locked in, learning new moves, trying to, get better at the tracks, and it was addictive to do it. And then also progressing in something like, let's say, Need for Speed Carbon, or even, heck, even something like Gravel, you really did get in there and go, okay, well, if I get through these races, I get those rewards. It kind of made you want to do it, you know what I mean? It was fun going through those events and going, dang, that race was really dope. I really enjoyed that. And the overall gameplay of many of these older games really was enough, which is kind of wild to me, guys. A lot of people really do look at these things and go, okay, well, at least the games are getting quote-unquote updates all the time, which, yes, you know what, they are kind of getting updates, but the thing is, a lot of the times that people are looking at these updates, I have been noticing a lot more players kind of getting tired of it, or really not getting all that excited for even something like the newest Motorfest update that's coming or something. I bet you guys, a lot of people are probably not even that excited because they look at the previous models of how they do the updates or how they do the seasons. You know, every single one is pretty much going to be almost the same overall design with how they do it, which really does take the fun out of it, if I'm being real. The thing is, I'm not necessarily saying live service is an awful thing and really should go away, as we could probably agree some of it could honestly probably work pretty well, even though most games are kind of failing it slightly, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of players probably want to have a good retention design on a game that's actually fun, or that results in fun, instead of basically being a replacement to where it's designed in there to make you come back to the game because you have to, not that you really want to. And this is something, guys, that I really have been noticing in many of these newer games. I'm honestly hoping that somehow, some way, things will end up changing in the future with some of these designs, but honestly, it kind of feels like most of the games are moving toward that entire retention-based design now, where all they're pretty much wanting to do now is get you into that game or make it look like players are always getting on the game, to kind of make it look like in ways players are always playing it, to make it look like it's populated. And then that way they could kind of show that and go, look, our game's being populated still even months later. Or they end up seeing like a big spike and then they're like, look, we have a huge spike in players now that's bringing more players back into the game even after all of this time. Honestly, guys, I really don't know how this can really change in the future, as so many games are going toward it. And y'all know what the wildest part to me is? We really are seeing this basically ruin most of the modern games that are out. And I honestly do think if they were to change it, it would probably benefit almost every single game on the market in some way if they stop designing them around this and actually design the games around being fun, and also, you know, the gameplay being the type of thing that would suck you into it, instead of having to jump on and do some limited time event or a limited time reward, or even something that's like an event or a match or something that's tied to that said thing that's going on that you can only do it then. Again, the entire limited time that they then tie in FOMO stuff to it, guys. I really do kind of wonder what is going through the heads of all of these people that are making these games and all that, because they really do think they're doing something right. But honestly, we can see with all the people nowadays that clearly people have kind of had enough, and every single game seems to be suffering, which we can also clearly see on how they are doing.